places. Maybe if Cam wasn't starting, he didn't want to be there.
Okay.
But where it goes
exactly,
where it goes even like more importantly to me, I thought Cam looked outstanding. Mac Jones also did. I thought game 2 of the preseason was the best either one of them looked that I saw for Cam, and I thought, Cam took the lead here. It's his job to lose, I thought.
Yeah.
And then he had to go through protocols for the unvaccinated.
Played a big factor.
He has not said that he first of all, he has refused to make public whether or not he's been vaccinated, calling it a private decision. We're in a public health crisis. I don't know why people insist on this idea that it's private. It's actually a public issue. But the protocols he went through are only for the unvaccinated. And he was having a good season last year with no preseason, no practice, new team, no receivers, no defense. He was having a good year and got COVID, missed the game, and was not the same for the rest of the season, to the point where we speculated maybe he has COVID fog. And then he came out weeks later and said, I just haven't felt right. Mm-hmm. And after that experience last year, he still went through the protocols only for the unvaccinated, where I thought he was winning the race, opening the door. Bill Belichick said the door was then open. Yep. This is the result.
Well, it opened up Pandora's box, right? And for this organization, I think one of the things for Bill Belichick and the Patriots organization, they started getting deja vu again, right, from last year, because they felt like they were doing good until that point when Cam caught COVID and he had to miss that time. So for them, I tell you, Bill Belichick is the only person I know, and when we talked about this the other day, Mac Jones being a first-round draft pick, I think Bill Belichick is the only human being in the National Football League that will cut a first-rounder, cut a second-rounder, cut anybody on the football team, and nobody's ever safe.
Bug?
Here's the thing I'll say. First and foremost, Mac Jones won the quarterback job. Now, why they cut Cam Newton, was that Cam Newton asking to be cut if he didn't win the job because we knew that Cam Newton played so well in the preseason? That I don't know. But the one thing I think we can surmise from the tweet by Adam Schefter is that Mac Jones won the starting quarterback job. Now, why does the vaccinated or unvaccinated play into it? I'm not sure. Just strictly sticking from a football standpoint, though, I think we can surmise, and I think it's pretty easy, that Josh McDaniels, who's the offensive coordinator, and Bill Belichick, who's the head coach, have chosen to go with Mac Jones, which is the choice I thought they should have made all along. Now, as we fast forward with Cam Newton, where does Cam Newton go? Because if he doesn't want to be a backup in New England, where's he going to be a backup? Where's he going to be even challenged for the starting job right now? To me, that's a question that hopefully Cam Newton and his camp have figured out. I don't know if I don't quite understand why you cut him, though, because you have Brian Hoyer and you have Jarrett Stidham. Are you saying that Brian Hoyer is going to be your backup quarterback? Did Cam Newton ask to be cut? Like, these are questions that I'm still a little confused as we get this breaking news live right now. But I think the one thing I'm not confused about, Molly and guys, is that Mac Jones won the starting quarterback job in New England, which he should have.
For some reason, I don't know why my mind just goes to COVID, and maybe that if you need your backup to always be available, and with protocols, if someone hasn't been vaccinated, maybe you need someone that could be more reliable and can't miss 5 days. I want to go back to what you said, and then obviously I want you guys to jump in, because you said, Boog, that you felt Mac Jones should have been the starting quarterback all along. Tell me why.
Because Mac Jones gives Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, and Bill Belichick, the head coach, to run the offense that they're more consistent and more comfortable with, similar to what they ran with Tom Brady. And if you go a step further, how does Mac Jones play the position? He throws the football with accuracy and timing, and he makes great decisions. Max, you said yourself, those are two of the most important components of playing the position. Bill Belichick told Mike Reese earlier today in the press conference what's going to go into making this job. Consistency and playmaking. Consistency is not Cam Newton. Cam Newton has been anything but consistent outside of 2015. So all along, when you looked at all the factors, everything pointed to Mac Jones being the quarterback. Now, we still get amazed because we, as older people sitting on this panel and on national television, we think back to Cam Newton of 2015. That guy doesn't exist anymore. The MVP doesn't exist. He's wildly inaccurate with the football, and he's inconsistent. So all along, Molly, I thought Mac Jones gave this team the best chance to win because he's got playmakers, the 2 tight ends, the 2 wide receivers they signed in the offseason. He's got a tremendous offensive line. The defense is going to be better with Hightower back. I still need to see what's going on with Gilmore at the cornerback spot. But overall, Mac Jones is a plug-and-play guy with all the weapons around him. So I thought he was going to win the job regardless of whether Cam Newton was cut or not today.
And, Book, I agree with you to a certain degree. Like, I thought up till the point where Cam Newton had to miss that time that he didn't do anything to lose that that quarterback job to Mac Jones. But what he did do was open up Pandora's box, and Mac Jones took advantage of the situation. He went out in those joint practices. He performed in each one of those practices. Somebody said he completed 18 passes in a row. Listen, unless you're throwing routes on air, sometimes it's even hard to do that on routes on air because you have people who don't want to look the ball in all the time. But that's amazing to me. But what do coaches want their players to do? They want them to take things from the practice field to the game field. That's what Mac Jones did. And I'll say, you look at that last preseason game, Cam Newton didn't look sharp. I told you, he was throwing outside the numbers. He was skipping passes. Passes are low. And I told you, I did not like that interception that he threw at all. So I thought Mac Jones won this job the last week and a half or last week, not from the start.
Mac Jones, you made a reference, Boog, earlier to the most important things for a quarterback. I would just say arm strength and accuracy, those things are prerequisites. You know, you have to be able to make all the throws. You have to do it at a certain level of consistency. And then beyond that, you have some extra. But Mac Jones certainly has the requisite arm strength and accuracy. And once you have that, really what's the most important thing? Decision-making, the speed of the decisions and the quality of the decisions. And one thing about Mac Jones was he came to the Patriots, to Bill Belichick, as advertised. Went from Saban to Belichick as advertised, which is he made really good decisions really quickly, including, Boog, you mentioned it earlier, what plays not to try to make. He appears to have a wisdom beyond his years, and the fact that the Patriots have this kid with the 15th pick in the draft, Belichick didn't have to move up, didn't have to trade up to get him or anything like that.
Didn't have to lose draft capital or nothing.
It tells you something when Bill Belichick spends a first-round pick on a quarterback. That tells you something. The value is too great to ignore.
And all the guaranteed money, which he normally doesn't do in the offseason. Let's bring in the gentleman that broke this for us and has much more information. That would be the one and only Adam Schefter. Adam, give us the latest on this decision by the Patriots to cut Cameron Newton and make Mac Jones the starter.
Well, first of all, you heard Mac say the Patriots using a first-round pick on Mac Jones, and I would say that the 49ers, when they traded away 3 first-round draft picks, moved up with the idea that they were comfortable taking Mac Jones, but that they would do their due diligence into Trey Lance and Justin Fields, and wound up falling further in love with Trey Lance before they took him, leaving Mac Jones to slide all the way to New England at 15 without the Patriots having to give up any additional first-round picks. And from the moment Mac Jones stepped in there this summer, he looked like he was a guy ready to take over. He led 8 preseason drives this summer. 8. Every one resulted in either a field goal or a touchdown. There was not a single drive this preseason that he initiated that they didn't score on. He impressed coaches with their accuracy. Spoke to one head coach last week who told me that he thought that Mac Jones could be and would be a Pro Bowl quarterback in this league for 10 years. And I'll be honest, I fully thought that he was going to wind up as the starting quarterback on opening day. What I didn't expect was that the Patriots today would release Cam Newton. But what that tells you is they are so sure of Mac Jones that they felt like it would be unfair to have Cam on the roster. They've got Brian Hoyer, a capable backup there in reserve. And so rather than put Cam in a position that might be a little bit awkward, they thanked him and said, we are ready to go with the youngster. The new Patriot era begins now. We're not wasting another second. And so they turn over everything to Mac Jones, which was coming, and everybody could see it was coming. The only question was it going to be week 1 or 2? But they decided, obviously, Bill Belichick did, that this was the time. And so Cam Newton is now going to be a free agent. Mac Jones is going to take over as the starting quarterback in New England. And obviously, it's a significant day in Patriot football history.
Wow.
Adam, but why not keep Cam as the backup? Why go to Brian Hoyer? Do you think this was purely a football decision?
Well, it's a situation where you have to understand the situation where it might have been tough for him to be a backup. Think about a former NFL MVP now backing up a rookie, the dynamics of that. And so they decided, again, I think, hey, let's do Cam a favor here. He doesn't have to subject himself to that. And if he wants to go see if there's another job out there for him, let him go do that. Look, someone's going to get hurt at some point this year. And obviously Cam Newton would figure to be the top available quarterback on the list for anybody right now, although it's going to be difficult to come in and learn offense. I just think that they thought, we've seen what we need to see in Mac Jones. There's no sense in having anybody else around here that is a threat, that is a former MVP. We're going with the young guy who we've been blown away by, who's been better than we thought. Cam, thank you for your service. We're going to let you go hit the free agent market.
Adam, how much of this do you think from Belichick, and I mean using a first-round pick on a quarterback, spending all the money in free agency, going with the young guy to start the season, is motivated by all that happened last year, including Brady winning the Super Bowl, the Patriots not making the playoffs? Because I look and think no rookie quarterback has ever led a team even to the Super Bowl, let alone won one. And in New England, I assume that's what they anticipate every year. That's what the goal is.
The New England Patriots have cut Cameron Newton as their starting quarterback. They've cut him from the team. Mac Jones will be starting the entire season and week 1 when they host the Miami Dolphins. Marcus, we'll get to you in just a second, but Harry was champing at the bit during that last conversation because you had something you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, this is one thing that's been on my mind a long time. Even playing in the NFL and watching the NFL before I got there, is that I never understood why teams, when they have a starting quarterback, that their backup quarterback doesn't kind of match what their starter is, right? And I say that because if your starter goes down, you want your backup to be kind of similar to your starter.
Have you experienced that as a player?
I did. I experienced that in Tennessee when Marcus Mariota got hurt, and we did a lot of zone reads and stuff of that nature, and then Matt Castle had to come in at quarterback. So we had to alter a lot of things offensively to benefit Matt Castle, and we wasn't able to just run everything that we wanted to run. So I think that has a factor to play in this as well. When you look at Cam Newton, and I agree with Boog, I think the New England Patriots, I think Josh McDaniels, I think Bill Belichick are tired of tweaking their offense, right? They want to get back to their offensive football and what they like to do. But my question I wanted to ask you, Max, and Marcus Spears, is that do y'all still believe that Cam Newton is a prominent starter in the National Football League?
I think he could be. I think people are sleeping on Cam. I think just based on what I've seen, I think, and the extenuating circumstances, I think he's getting slept on. But I want to say one thing real quick, Marcus. Bill Belichick does not wish guys into existence. Most other human beings do. You know why you always, if you follow a baseball team, you always overvalue your own prospects? Because they're yours and you wish cast them into certain roles. And we see teams do this with quarterbacks all the time. Why'd you waste a draft pick on this dude for? We needed a quarterback. Yeah, but he's not a good one. Why'd you take him? When Bill Belichick spends a first-round pick on a quarterback, which he's never done before, right? Like, even spending a second-rounder on Garoppolo tells you a lot. Like, oh, he really thinks Garoppolo can play. Yeah? A first-round pick on a quarterback, he's not looking in there and squinting and trying to see what he wants to see. If he spends the 15th overall pick in the draft, it's because best believe he thinks that kid can be a starter for a long time. And that, just like not wishing things into existence, seeing them as they are, is a trait that is rare and looks like it could work out here.
And obviously there's the Nick Saban connection. They're very tight. So he has his blessing, so that gives a vote of confidence as well. Real quick, Marcus, before you jump into your point about why they have different types of quarterbacks, I'm assuming, Harry, it's just best available. And somebody like a Bill Belichick, I don't know if this would play a decision because he kind of runs a new offense, it feels like, every week anyway. Marcus, what is your thoughts on this?
A lot of thoughts. But the number one thought when we start talking about this situation, Mac Jones outplayed Cam Newton in the preseason. I was just on Mac's show yesterday telling Max this, but he was hard-headed. And listen, here's the convoluted part, because nobody wants to talk about it, but y'all know damn well I'm going to talk about it. Our hearts want to see Cam Newton have success. That's why this is difficult for everybody. Like most of the guys that played in the league, most of the guys that we talked to, you all that have been covering him, we want to see Cam have success, knowing the things that he's been through injury-wise, knowing how things fell apart in Carolina. And my heart was in there, too. I thought Bill Belichick had an affinity for Cam. I said that on numerous occasions. But the one thing that I've always been told in football is that the film don't lie, and that's your resume. And when you look at the film and you look at how this offseason transpired and you look at the things that took place, no, Cam didn't do anything to hurt himself. He just didn't do enough to separate himself. The conversation shifted. And Max and I had this conversation yesterday on Max Kellerman radio show. I don't know the time. I was going to do a promo, Max, but you could tell the people the time. But the bottom line is, when you are in position, all right, first of all, this move and the things that's been proven, I don't know how Bill Belichick keeps winning, but he won the draft. Y'all, he won the draft. And this is what I was screaming before the draft. When we started having this conversation about Mac Jones, number 3 to San Francisco, I was screaming, no, 15 is perfect for him to end up in New England with recourse, things that he's been doing in college that he can obviously take to New England. And if you look at what New England did, they built a roster perfectly for Mac Jones and the way he plays football. Protect him, run the football, give him 2 tight ends where he'll have outlets, maybe be in 22 personnel, maybe be in 21, 22, 2 tight ends in the back and 2 backs. So it's all of these things that are weighing into this decision. And then Mac just went out on the field and operated at a very high level. And look, this is another thing. The expectation for Mac Jones is not to throw 45 touchdowns and for 5,000 yards. It's to be a facilitator. I don't even want to say a game manager, because at times he's going to have to come up big in clutch moments like every other quarterback does. He played better than Cam Newton. I came to that reality a couple of days ago, and that is the reality that we're seeing play out. I thought Max made a great point earlier about, well, maybe the release is about Cam not wanting to be a backup, or Bill Belichick saying, hey, man, go, because coaches do this when they do have.
Yeah, it seems like Bill Belichick is hooking Cam up here.
It
seems like Bill Belichick is doing it out of respect for Cam. Probably something Cam wants to be free to go.
To give him an opportunity to go find something elsewhere. To answer the question, though, I don't think what I've seen from Cam Newton, all right, and it's a sample size of a lot of convoluted things. COVID, no offseason last year, trying to run an offense where you know you're devoid of talent. I don't know if Cam Newton is going to ever be a starter or a high-level starter in this league.
I have an idea about that.
I just know, based on the things that transpired right now, there is no way you can answer that question with a yes and feel confident about it based on what we've seen as a whole sample size. And Max, I'm not just talking about last year. I'm talking about the injuries. I'm talking about things that Harry brought up that I talked about last year. It was times last year where I was like, does Cam have the arm strength to make these throws? And then he'll make a phenomenal throw. So that speaks to the inconsistency that Boog talked about. I don't know the answer to that. But based on the recent information, I don't know if Cam is still a starter in the NFL. And if he is, it's got to be a great situation like for every other quarterback. But this is surprising that he was released. It is not surprising that Mac Jones is going to be QB1.
And this is one of the things I want to say, y'all. What's the biggest MO when it comes to men, right? Our pride, right? Sometimes our pride gets in the way.
Pride comes before the fall.
Carmelo Anthony put his pride away, right? And understood that, okay, I'm a player that comes off the bench now. I'm trying to figure out, if Cam's not going to be a starter, will he put his pride away anywhere else so he can be a backup, or does he just say he's done with football?
I'll tell you what, I've been thinking about where would Cam go.
Yeah.
There's one possibility I'd love to see come to pass, and it's based off some recent news, and it was previously, I also thought this news made sense. When Deshaun Watson wanted out of Houston, right? When he wanted out, and this predates the many accusations against him by the massage therapist, right? At that time, I thought, well, Deshaun's going to want to go someplace where he can win. And Miami, I looked at Miami and I thought, they have all these draft picks and they're already good. So you can give up some draft picks, go get them, and still be really good. Why wouldn't he want to play there? Warm weather city, glamour market, the whole thing. And then things happened, and now it looks like, when is the next time Deshaun's going to get on the field? And then we hear more reports, right? More rumors that maybe Tua and picks, whatever those picks are, for Deshaun, maybe is back on the table. Maybe that could happen. And if that does happen, we still don't know when Deshaun gets back on the field. You know what that leaves Miami without? A quarterback. If they pulled the trigger on that deal for the future, they might not have a quarterback this year. there's a destination for Cam in the same division with the Patriots.
So then week 1, he'd be back in Foxborough?
Could be.
I was hoping for Tua versus Mac, but that works as well. Harry?
And I'll even go to Mac Jones. Let me go back to Mac Jones for a second. When you look at when Tua was at Alabama, right, what did they run? They ran the RPO system. That's what they ran. When Mac Jones came there, well, he was already there. When it was time for Mac Jones to become the starting quarterback, what did Steve Sarkisian do? The offense opened up even more. They started taking more shots downfield. The offense tailored more towards a pro-style offense, right? So I think that speaks volumes of Mac Jones and how ready he is right now to play, because you've seen the things that Steve Sarkisian did with him at Alabama. You've seen the throws that he made with anticipation at Alabama. And then he comes in preseason, he wins this job, and you see the same things on the football field during this preseason for Mac Jones. So at the end of the day, and Marcus, you can attest to this because you played in this league, you got to give credit what credit is due. Mac Jones won this job hands down.
No doubt. No doubt about it, man. And listen, like I said, our emotions have been a part of this discussion.
And I'm guilty of that.
I can honestly admit that wanting to see Cam be the starter and have success got in the way of me actually looking and really taking reservation of what was happening. What was happening, okay, and anybody can go look at it. It's recorded. It's on tape. You can find it somewhere. Was better for the New England Patriots at quarterback than Cam Newton was.
That says more about Mac Jones than Cam Newton, by the way.
Reality,
that says a lot about Mac.
No, but to what Marcus is saying, Cam is a star, right? So we all wanted to see vintage Cam, how exciting he was, MVP Cam. But obviously didn't do enough to separate him there. All right, Marcus, you'll be back with us in just a bit. We're going to have more on the stunning news of Cam Newton's release. Mike Reese will join us. Obviously, he covers this team very intimately. He'll have more details on the situation in New England. Mac Jones will be their starter. Stay here. It's First Take. Better for us than our very own Mike Reese. Mike, talk to me. What led to the decision to cut Cam? Because obviously they still could have kept him. Even if Mac was going to be the starter, they still could have kept him in the backup role.
Molly, it's a great question, and I would say first and foremost, go back to what Bill Belichick has said all along, that he was looking for consistency in production over time in whatever decision he was going to make at quarterback. So start with the fact that, in his view, it was Mac who gave him that. And then I think the second layer to this is, now that you've turned to Mac, what are you setting up to put him in the best position to succeed and to grow into a leadership role? And it looks to me like they want to sort of clear a path where he doesn't have that sort of alpha presence of a former NFL MVP behind him, and this sort of clears the path for him to be the guy, knowing that there's nothing behind him and players can rally around him.
I mentioned earlier, Mike, that Belichick does not wish cast. He doesn't squint and see what he hopes to see. He has a pretty sober view of quarterbacks, especially in the draft. And when he used a first-round pick on a quarterback, it told me something. A lot of people bring up his relationship with Nick Saban as one of the kind of influences there. How much of that is true to your knowledge?
Oh, it's true, Max, and I will tell you, 15th overall, they take Mac Jones, and when you watch, I've watched every practice in training camp this preseason, obviously all the games. He's running the Patriots offense, Max, and there was a day last week, the Giants were in town, it was Wednesday, Mac was the only quarterback because Cam wasn't there. At the final day, he was sort of away from the team due to the COVID misunderstanding. And it was a special moment, Max. Like, I haven't seen many practices like that. Like, you almost saw, maybe the torch is passing right here in this moment. And he's running the offense. And I hate to say it, it almost looked like Tom Brady, and I would never do that to Mac or compare him to him, but it's the same concepts, the empty formations, checking out of plays, setting the protection for the offensive line, and that was the picture that came into focus over the entirety of training camp and preseason, that when Mac was in there, it was the Patriot offense that you would vision when Tom Brady was there, and when Cam was in there, it was a different look. Not that that can't be successful, but it's just not sort of the Patriots' traditional offense.
Mike, let me ask you this really quickly. How has the team responded to Mac? Do you feel like the locker room wanted him as their guy?
So that's always hard, Molly, to get a feel for. But let me tell you this, like a veteran offensive lineman, Trent Brown, he's been around the block 7 years now.
Yeah.
He said of Mac Jones, I think he can be special. For a young guy, you don't expect to see him making some of the throws that he's been making. You hear from other veterans about the respect that Mac earned from them in short time with the way he went about his job. So I wouldn't say like it was a split, like it has to be Mac or it can't be Cam. I truly believe the players would have gone with whatever Bill decided, but I can tell you decisively that they were behind Mac from a standpoint of they watched the way he went about his work, and they were very impressed with what they saw.
And Mac, I even take it a step further, right? What's one of the knocks on these young quarterbacks when they come to the NFL, right? They have to see receivers and tight ends wide open before they actually throw the football. Not with Mac Jones. What I seen from him at Alabama, he's throwing with anticipation, which receivers love. Trust me, I know. He's throwing with anticipation, but you see him against the blitz at Alabama. He did a great job against the blitz. You just mentioned he's checking in and out of plays, getting the offense into the right play. The intelligence means a lot when it comes to being a quarterback in the New England Patriots system, because I've known a lot of guys who's went up there and played in New England, right, on their second stints or their last stints before they retired, and they tell me that that's one of the hardest offenses to even learn. So for Mac Jones to come in and grasp this offense the way he's doing, throw with anticipation, get this offense into the right play while he's out there on the football field, says a lot about Mac Jones and the way he attacks the game of football.
And Harry, I want to give you just another layer of insight from the ground here in Foxborough. I think one of the things that really endeared Mac to the coaching staff was that he's going to make mistakes, right? Which player doesn't, especially a rookie? But what he didn't often do, Harry, was make the same mistake twice. And so what that allowed them to do was continue to sort of progress through training camp and the preseason and add on to whatever they're installing offensively, because they didn't have to keep going back and correcting things. They would correct it once, Mac would make the correction, and they would move forward. And I think that aspect, he's not an error repeater. Our Teddy Bruschi has sort of coined that phrase in New England. You don't want to be an error repeater. You won't be around long. That aspect of Mac, I believe, is a huge factor as to how he has elevated to the starting role probably quicker than a lot of people thought, maybe even including Bill Belichick himself when this started.
I mean, that's major. Making a mistake once, not repeating again, especially when we're talking about football and anything in life. Marcus, do you want to get in on this?
Mike, I just have one question for you, and it's down the road. I just want to find out why he was released. I really want to know what the thought process was behind being released. Was it to give him an opportunity and an early start on the next destination, or was it that it is just that part you talked about having an alpha like Cam Newton and the personality like him maybe cause conflict when the season is going along? Or is it that they felt like Cam Newton just didn't have the goods anymore? I want to know if one of those three is the answer.
And you know what, Marcus? It requires another layer of reporting to get to the bottom of it. And I've often thought this from a theory perspective, that if they were going to go with Mac, that I almost thought that Cam has earned such respect from Bill Belichick for the way he came in here and propped up the Patriots program at a time when it was easy to sort of knock the Patriots program in a down year. Like Cam held the Patriots flag, right? And so I think he earned the respect of Bill and everyone, that it wouldn't surprise me if Bill went to Cam and said, look, how do you want to handle this? Do you want your release? Like, this might have been something that was Cam-driven. And I'm speculating, Marcus, which I don't like to do, but I think it requires another layer of reporting.
That's where my mind went first. From the outside, it looks like that coach is doing the right thing by the QB, who's done the right thing by the coach.
Harry, I know you want to get in here. And Mike, sorry just throwing this at you, but do you think the COVID situation could have played a role at all?
Well, I think it played a huge role from this standpoint, Molly. Like, when Cam wasn't with the team for three practices, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of last week, Mac took over the team. And the players responded to him. and that has to be a factor. He must have thrown 500 balls between those 3 practices when you factor in warm-ups and the team drills and the competitive drills, and all that stuff adds up when you're making a decision. And if Cam was there, I mean, I can say decisively, Mac would never have had that workload or the chance, to show what he can do when he is specifically the guy.
And Swagoo, this is funny. I'm laughing at this when Mike says is that when Mac Jones makes a mistake, he doesn't make the same mistake twice. You playing in this league, me playing in this league, it's easily said, but it's hard to get done. But for Mac Jones to do it,
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
says a lot, man.
Mike Reese, you are a pro's pro. I'm being told that we have to let Mike go because other people need to speak to him. Obviously, I don't blame them. We can't just hog Mike to ourselves. Mike, thank you so much, and we'll be checking in with you all day. Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Marcus, Harry, though, we can pick up the conversation here. Marcus, what were you saying?
Yeah, listen, Harry makes a great point, and I'm thinking about all of this stuff, and I'm going back and pre to the draft, Mac coming out of Alabama, and the whole San Francisco 49ers thing arrived, and I was like, no, that doesn't take this offense to the next level. That was not an indictment on what Mac Jones had done. You could see his talent. All of the things that we talking about with Mac Jones right now today, that's the reason why he was being considered as a top 3 pick. Those were the things that a lot of people placed a high value on. I just didn't think that fit was right for him. This fit was perfect, y'all. When you look at Alabama, they had players around them. A lot of quarterbacks have had success. Alabama went to the college football playoff the first year against Ohio State with a guy that had never played quarterback before. And he threw and broke all kind of records and all of that. But the bottom line is this. Where you go sometimes is more important than how good you are.
Speak
and
on
Mac
it.
Jones is good. But
Speak
Mac
on
Jones not only is good,
the situation,
Mac Jones ended up
I don't know.
Like this
if you can read defenses,
he walked into this situation with recall.
Okay,
if you
hold
have
on,
a
guys.
strong and accurate arm and you can read defenses quickly, and you'll work anywhere. I mean, you'll work anywhere.
All right, guys, quick break. We got Dan Orlovsky, our quarterback, on the other side. We'll have much more on this. Don't go anywhere. First Take. Again, the breaking news of the day. The Patriots have released Cam Newton. Mac Jones will be the starter. Stay here. It's First Take.
Tough AFC East. Do they have to make the playoffs? Is that what's at stake here? They have to be above 500, right? Like 9 out of 17 games, they got to go 9-8 at least. Is that even a win, or is that a push? Do they have to be better than that? Do they have to win the AFC East? Do they have to be a wild card? What is it in New England? What are the expectations now for, if you believe in Mac, a suddenly loaded Patriots team?
They got to make the playoffs. Like that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead. I was just going to say, because we had a little bit of a pause there, Marcus. I was just going to say, I think the question almost is, well, what were your expectations with Cam? And now what are they with Mac? Are they higher? Are they the same? Where are you on that?
I think that if you're going to go,
Marcus,
go ahead. Marcus, that was for you.
My expectation is for them to at minimum make the playoffs and vie to win the AFC East. Like, listen, we know the Buffalo Bills are the best team in the AFC East in their division. And Josh Allen has a lot to do with that. But New England took them to the mat last year because New England, here's the thing that people have to understand. The New England Patriots are not going to give games away. Like, that has been their strength for so long. Yes, they've had Tom Brady. Yes, they've done a tremendous job of having balance and running the football. But the mindset and the mentality of this franchise is to keep people out of the end zone. That is how they're built. They want to win in a traditional way in football. And listen, I know it's not popular because we do have these dual threat quarterbacks who are playing tremendous and doing all of these wow factor things. But Bill Belichick last year, all right, I'm going away. Last year, Bill Belichick with Brian Hoyer as a starter had the Kansas City Chiefs on close in the fourth quarter. I think it was like 10-0 or something like that in that game. So this team is all about a quarterback that's going to take care of the football, a very boring and strategic way that usually ends up grinding teams out because you're going to make the mistake before they do. That is the philosophy that Bill Belichick wants to play with. So it's not only about if Cam Newton was going to be better at quarterback or Mac Jones was going to be better at quarterback. And this is what I'm screaming about the Chicago Bears. Bill Belichick always has a view of what's best for everyone on this football team. Not just my quarterback. Not just the guys that's involved in this decision. What's best for Dante Hightower? What's best for Stephon Gilmore? Matter of fact, just went on PUP list, so he's out the first 6 weeks. So what do we do in order to give ourselves a chance to win football games late in games? Last year, they did that exact thing. Cam obviously had the misfortune and fumble against the Buffalo Bills. The Patriots are going to be good. Now they have a quarterback that they're hoping can deliver in clutch moments and also value the football at a high level. Well, Cam Newton threw 8 touchdowns and 10 picks last year. That is not how he wants to go into a season.
When I look at the AFC, the Chiefs, Ravens, Browns, Steelers, Colts, Titans, Bills, Dolphins, Chargers. I think people should watch for the Chargers this year. There are 10 teams there, including the Patriots. 3 of them ain't going to make the playoffs. So that's going to be touch and go for the Pats. You know, and they're in a suddenly tough AFC East. I want to say something about Mac Jones, because you touched on it a little bit earlier in your comments, Marcus. He went last among the top flight quarterbacks, and I thought he should have gone last among the top flight quarterbacks, the first rounders, because he's not a dual threat, because he doesn't have mobility. And it reminds me of the NBA until pretty recently, where throughout a lot of my life, the bigs would go before a lot of the other guys who turned out better than them. Why? Because height was easy to project in the NBA. You knew height was an advantage. Yeah. At the quarterback position now, being mobile, being a dual threat quarterback is an advantage that's easy to project. You know that will play. You have to have the other stuff, but at least you know you have that. And Mac Jones, if you look at him in college, was on par in terms of his level of success with Joe Burrow, went first overall last year, with Trevor Lawrence, went first overall this year. He was setting records for completion percentage, and he was leading the NCAA in yards per attempt and all those things, right? So it wasn't his success in college. He was a national champion. He showed out even at the Iron Bowl when they lost, right? A couple of years ago. He played big in big games. It wasn't that Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence had more success in college. It's that we projected, and by we, I mean the media and the pundits, projected those guys to be better in the pros because they had some things Mac Jones didn't. But what Mac Jones might have is the thing, Tom Brady comparisons will be inevitable because he's taking over the reins, really, is the thing that Tom Brady has better than everyone, right? He makes quicker decisions. He makes better decisions faster than anyone else. That's the thing.
It's
not true. Tom Brady doesn't make the best decisions the fastest?
Man, I thought that was Peyton Manning, but
yeah, but Peyton Manning didn't have the arm strength to play.
Marcus, what are you mad about?
So that's two.
What are you mad about right now?
Bro, Joe Burrow had the greatest season of a quarterback in the history of college football. Sure. And Mac Jones, by no means am I discounting what he did at Bama. It was phenomenal. But let's not get crazy, Max. Like, Joe Burrow made great decisions, fast decisions from the pocket. This dude went from undrafted and beat 7 top 10 teams on his way to a championship.
I'm not doubting Joe Burrow.
So don't have this.
You know what Mac Jones did last year?
Mac Jones won the starting job that you start going crazy now.
Do you? Whoa. Pump those brakes. Do you know what Mac Jones did last year? Not only is he a national champion, 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Yeah. You can't.
Now go look up Joe Burrow stuff.
Look, if you want to ask the Joe Burrow season, if you want to ask, did Joe Burrow have the greatest college season ever? The answer might be yes, right?
It is yes. It's not might be, Max.
Trevor Lawrence also went first this year. Did Trevor Lawrence have a better season in college than Joe Burrow? So then Mac Jones, the point is not how I'm ordering their best seasons. The point is Mac Jones just had a season in that class. You can't do much better than he just did.
Sure.
I'm going to say this, y'all. One of the things that we forgot about is that this thing about Mac Jones and how he can play the game and what people thought of him, the proof was in the pudding a long time ago. When they asked Jalen Waddle, who would you take, Mac Jones or Tua? When they asked Devontae Smith, who would you take, Mac Jones or Tua? And surprisingly to a lot of people, both of those guys who were stars at Alabama chose Mac Jones. So the proof was in the pudding a long time ago. It's just the writing on the wall wasn't clear for all of us. But I want to go back to the expectations for Mac Jones. For me, the expectations, I'll say, number one, don't lose football games, right? Don't turn the football over. That Marcus touched on that.
That's a little too vague for me, Harry.
Listen, you can't lose football.
No, but I need a little more in terms of expectations. I need a little more, are they making the playoffs?
That's number one, Mike. You let me finish. That's number one.
Go.
Number two, I have make the playoffs. You make the playoffs and you give this organization a bright side and you give this fan base something to cheer for and let this fan base know that it is life after Tom Brady. Those are the expectations I have for Mac Jones in his first year. Make the playoffs.
You know how you make the playoffs? You got to beat all the teams you're supposed to beat. You got to beat all the teams you're supposed to beat and a couple of them that look like 50-50 games.
Well, who are? I want to pull up the schedule.
I'm looking at the schedule right now.
Yeah.
Dolphins, that's like a 50-50 game. Be a good idea to win that one, right? Jets, you got to beat. I got to say the Saints you got to beat at this point.
Not
Bucks,
according to Marcus Spears.
Bucks you're probably going to lose to, but like there's Texans. You look at those first 5 games, you must win at least 3 of those games.
Okay.
I think they go 3-2.
What about the Cowboys?
4-1 would also it's going to be tight in the AFC.
And you know why?
What about Dallas? Hold on, I don't want to skip on Dallas. You think they should beat them?
I don't think Dallas is great shakes. I like the Patriots more than Dallas if Mac Jones is the guy. I like the Patriots to beat the Jets. Chargers, I think, will be improved. Panthers, I don't believe it.
Looking at this schedule, their first 9 games are favorable.
Yeah.
What am I doing,
They should be
Marcus?
plus 500 after the first 9 games.
Talk to me, Spears. What am I doing?
I know what you're doing. You ain't gonna. You're not gonna get me today with the Cowboys, okay? Listen. I
was waiting for an answer from somebody.
Reel you in.
I'm hearing things. Hold up.
I got a big one.
This is first take. I'm like, what are the expectations? They need to win games. I expect more from you, Marcus Spears. All right, where are you on how many games they should win? Yeah.
Look, the first 2 are the most important, right? Divisional games, and you want to see Mac and how he performs. And remember this, y'all, the Miami Dolphins, Xavier Howard is a little different than the guys that Mac Jones been throwing against. Byron Jones is a little different. And the reason why Bill Belichick is making this decision is because he feels like Mac Jones is not going to put them in harm's way when he's playing against guys like that. I just talked about how the New England Patriots want to play football. This is another. Let me give y'all an example. Similar situation. This is a very similar situation to what Baker Mayfield has going on in Cleveland. All right. All of the things that they did in this offseason, the things that we've listed out about the offensive line, the weapons around Mac Jones, not as good as the ones Baker have. Don't get it misconstrued. I'm not saying that. Baker has the best offensive line in football. He has weapons. OBJ is coming back, all of those things. But this goes back to something Harry said, and I want to touch on it. At Alabama, those guys said they would prefer Mac Jones. That speaks to Mac Jones's ability and the way he played at the University of Alabama. And the hard part about drafting a quarterback, the hard part about a projection is where in the hell they are going. And this is why I was standing on the table, beating it down to say it is a mistake to take Mac Jones in San Francisco. Mac Jones does not need to be in the back doing jet sweep motion, handing the ball off, having an RPOs type situation going on when he's playing. He needed to end up in New England. If we got the tape, roll it back from months ago, months before the draft, leading up to it. This is perfect for Mac Jones. This fit is perfect for Mac Jones. Don't you think for 1 second that Mac Jones doesn't look better than some people thought he would look because he's in New England. Has everything to do with that.
I'm looking at the first overall picks: Baker, Kyler, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence. Mac Jones college heights fit in right with those guys.
Max. Baker Mayfield won a Heisman Trophy, and we didn't know if he was a starting quarterback 2 years ago in the NFL.
But he went
Marcus
first overall.
Mariota won a Heisman Trophy. Dude, what I'm saying is this. Where Mac Jones ended up at 15 is a lot. It has a lot to do with the reason why he's not only starting, but why this team should vie for a chance to win the AFC East. Molly, if I'm at
Yeah.
my house, okay, and you across the street, right,
Yep.
and I have a problem at my house, and you have a room at your house exactly set up like my room, ain't I gonna feel at home?
Absolutely. I might even give you the master
That's
bedroom.
what Mac Jones walked into. That's what he walked into.
Yeah.
And listen, this is by no means to say Mac Jones is not good enough to play other places or cast any aspersions on Mac Jones as far as his talent and the things that he's done. But when you end up in this situation with the New England Patriots with so much recall to what you were doing in college, you have a head start on
it's
everybody, especially when you're coming in as a quarterback.
And it's about where you go and where you fit. And that's for any player in the NFL, right, Marcus? That's why you see some guys in free agency, they may leave one team and go somewhere else and ball. It's because where they left wasn't the place for them, but where they went is the place
It
for
dictates the trajectory of your career. Absolutely. What situation you get drafted into.
Let me give you a perfect example of that, okay? Listen, I played ball in Dallas with a guy named Jason Hatcher. I knew Hatch was talented. I knew he was off the charts talented. He was in the wrong defense. He was in a 3-4 defense, which was not conducive to his talent. All right. This is why it matters where people end up. When I left and went to Baltimore to play in the 3-4, and Hatch was there with Rod Marinelli, who ran a 4-3, where guys can put their hand in the dirt, go upfield, havoc in the backfield. That is what Jason Hatcher was tailor-made to do. You know what ended up happening? He ended up being a rotational guy in a 3-4. He was better than me at playing a 4-3 because of his athleticism and how he could play the game. He went to the Pro Bowl in one season of going to the right situation, and then got a deal with the Washington football team with $10 million guaranteed because he was in the right situation. He was in a system that was conducive to him having success. This is what Mac Jones walked into. So it's not only about Mac Jones outperforming Cam Newton. He had a leg up because he was in the right place at the right time. That matters.
For sure. No, he's in a great situation. Obviously, there's going to be rookie mistakes, but when Mike Reese, who covers the Patriots for us, said earlier that one thing that everyone's paid attention to is that he makes a mistake.
Thought that he was going to wind up as the starting quarterback on opening day. What I didn't expect was that the Patriots today would release Cam Newton. But what that tells you is they are so sure of Mac Jones that they felt like it would be unfair to have Cam on the roster. They've got Brian Hoyer, a capable backup there in reserve. And so rather than put Cam in a position that might be a little bit awkward, they thanked him and said, we are ready to go with the youngster. The new Patriot era begins now. We're not wasting another second. And so they turn over everything to Mac Jones, which was coming, and everybody could see it was coming. The only question was it going to be week 1 or 2? But they decided, obviously, Bill Belichick did, that this was the time. And so Cam Newton is now going to be a free agent. Mac Jones is going to take over as the starting quarterback in New England. And obviously, it's a significant day in Patriot football history.
Wow.
Adam, but why not keep Cam as the backup? Why go to Brian Hoyer? Do you think this was purely a football decision?
Well, it's a situation where you have to understand the situation where it might have been tough for him to be a backup. Think about a former NFL MVP now backing up a rookie, the dynamics of that. And so they decided, again, I think, hey, let's do Cam a favor here. He doesn't have to subject himself to that. And if he wants to go see if there's another job out there for him, let him go do that. Look, someone's going to get hurt at some point this year. And obviously Cam Newton would figure to be the top available quarterback on the list for anybody right now, although it's going to be difficult to come in and learn offense. I just think that they thought, we've seen what we need to see in Mac Jones. There's no sense in having anybody else around here that is a threat, that is a former MVP. We're going with the young guy, who we've been blown away by, who's been better than we thought. Cam, thank you for your service. We're going to let you go hit the free agent market.
All right, that was Adam Schefter with us earlier. Great info and context, as always, by Adam. Guys, we've focused on Mac now quite a bit, but I want to look at Cam. And Max, I'll come to you here first. Where do you see him landing?
Well, let me give you a scenario that I'd love to see happen.
Okay.
Because they're in the same division. Miami has been in talks, reportedly, with the Texans in, I would assume, a tour for Deshaun Watson's swap, which would obviously have to include more compensation from Miami, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to get that straight up.
No.
Deshaun Watson, with all the allegations against him, the massage therapist allegations against him, they're over 20, may not be on the field for a hot minute, right? So if you don't have Tua there anymore, and you don't have Deshaun Watson, but you got a real defense, and you got a young weapon now in Waddle and some other guys, what do you do? Well, you bring Cam Newton in. He may be able, like if you tell me the Miami team with Cam at quarterback, can they compete? I think they can, and I just love to see it in the same division.
For me, it's more so, is Cam willing to be a backup, right? Because when you look at him going to a new team right now, you would have to learn a whole new system, right? And we seen how that was in New England when he had to learn that system last year on the fly and go in and try to play football games. But I think the main question for me is Cam willing to be a backup in this league? Because that's what he's going to be right now. At this juncture in the season, right before the season starts, he's not going nowhere to start on the team because he's not going to pick up the offense that fast. Hardly anybody's going to pick up an offense that fast that goes to a different team in that quick of a turnaround. So for me, it's more so, is Cam willing to be a backup? Is he willing to take that step backwards like we've seen Carmelo Anthony do with the
Blazers? Why wouldn't he back up in New England then? Well, in other words, if he wants to be out, and I'm reading between the lines thinking Bill Belichick would do right by him, say, okay, go ahead. If he wants to be out, why not back up in New England?
But Max, where's he going to go start right now?
Well, as I said, there could be a scenario like the Miami scenario.
It's not even logical right now. He can't learn Miami's
without a quarterback.
He can't learn Miami's offense in a week before the season starts. So where's he going to go and be a starting quarterback right now?
I just gave you one option.
So you're telling me he's going to learn Miami's offense within a week?
Well, there's a lot of factors, obviously, for that to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of things would have to happen. The issue right now in the NFL is teams either have an established quarterback or a young quarterback that they have high hopes for. If you really think about it, around the league, where else is a landing place that's not a backup for a mobile quarterback? Like the reason Cam's not starting is he's not consistent enough with his arm, right? Read defense, get rid of it quickly and accurately. So, but he can approximate some things that other dual threat quarterbacks can do, which would make him a good backup on several teams.
Yeah.
My question is, for that, why not stay in New England?
Yeah, for sure. But we heard that there might be an issue, former MVP, and in that situation with a rookie and how it could potentially get uncomfortable. So maybe they went Hoyer. I mean, even a team.
Mac was pretty comfortable to me.
We just saw the Cowboys released a bunch of quarterbacks. Obviously, they have Cooper Rush, but he could be a backup with a team like that who has a really solid shot to do some damage. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to have.
Mac Jones really knows how to process information quickly, pre-snap, post-snap. He knows what the defense is trying to do to him. But more importantly, he's accurate with the football, Molly. Think about it. Cam Newton is probably the most imposing athlete at the quarterback position that we've ever seen. But the one glaring weakness that Cam Newton has had in his whole career is accuracy. Okay? That's the one thing that Mac Jones does very well. He knows where to go with the football. He knows how to place the football where it needs to be. New England has done a tremendous job of rebuilding this roster on both sides of the ball. Defensively, offensive line is going to be top five, in my opinion. They got a room full of running backs. They're going to run the ball. And you know what they're going to tell Mac Jones? Don't lose it. Because Bill always used to tell us there are more teams find ways to lose games than win them. And we've heard time and time again, we've heard guests coming on First Take this morning basically saying how Mac Jones does not make the same mistake twice. That is really important in a Bill Belichick system, in a Bill Belichick culture, and ultimately, that's why Mac Jones won this job.
Woody, when you look at Cam Newton, I want to focus on Cam Newton for a minute. And you look at Cam Newton, You look at what he was in 2015, MVP of the league, playing at a high level, and you look at him now. When you look at the National Football League and you look at teams who may need a quarterback, teams who may need a backup, where do you see Cam fits best in the National Football League? What team teams do you have in mind?
You know, that's a tough question. You know, I look at maybe out in Denver. I know Teddy Bridgewater won the job. You know, but who knows? That situation might be tenuous out there. But quite honestly, you know, we're at a point, and I know Bill did Cam a favor by releasing him right now to try to latch on somewhere. But where's the starting jobs? Where's the starting jobs right now? We're like a little over a week away from week 1 games. Where's Cam Newton going to walk in right now, learn the playbook, and start week 1? I just find it hard. I find it hard to find a landing spot for Cam Newton where he's going to be starting week 1.
It's late in the game for that. It's late in the game for that. But I'm thinking about Cam when under Norv Turner, before he was hurt, he was having his best passing season from the pocket. And when you look at what he did with the Patriots last year, given all the extenuating circumstances, they still came 2 plays away from winning 9 games. I'm just thinking, when Cam got hurt, who would you rather have, Jameis or Cam? Because I would have rather had Cam. Jameis just got a starting job with a good team with the Saints. Washington football team, where his former coach already passed on him, by the way, when he was available, right?
Rivera.
But his former coach has Fitzmagic starting, but if you have Fitz starting, it's because you don't have a franchise quarterback, because he spent his career bouncing back and forth as a starter, a really good backup, a guy who reels off 3 or 4 great weeks in a row, 3 or 4 bad weeks. I don't know, but I'm just taking my mind back to before his injury. If someone would have said Cam or Jameis, I'd have said Cam. Cam or Patrick, I'd have said Cam. We don't know that Jalen Hurts or Gardner Minshew, whoever, is the answer in Philly yet. We don't know. So when you start looking around, by the way, even Pittsburgh, right? Roethlisberger
I had that in mind,
could wind up getting hurt. Don't you want a big, strong quarterback who has veteran experience backing him up because you have playoff? There are teams, when you look around the league, that may have starting jobs open in the not-too-distant future.
I'm sure he'll have a job. If the Patriots were considering him as a starting quarterback, I'm sure he's going to land somewhere.
But I'll say this, Woody. The question is Cam willing to be a backup quarterback? Because we know he's not going to start on a team right now. Is Cam willing to be a backup quarterback?
Hey, Harry, here's the thing I will tell you, and I've told people already. Not everyone is able to be a backup quarterback. Think about this. You're talking about a guy who was a league MVP, guy who went to the Super Bowl, and now at the age of 32, you're relegated to being a backup quarterback? Man, you got to swallow your pride to be in that situation. It takes a lot. It takes a lot for you to swallow your pride, knowing all the things that you've accomplished in this league, to basically say, you know what, I need to humble myself and take this backup role in order for me to possibly try to gain a starting role next year. That is going to be the key. Is Cam Newton willing to do that? I don't know, because I don't see a scenario right now where Cam Newton can walk in and be a starting quarterback.
It's odd because, usually you think the best 32 should be the starters. But when I look at Fitzpatrick, when I look at Jameis Winston, when I look at Sam Darnold, I don't know that any of those guys are better than Cam Newton if he's healthy. I don't know. Matter of fact, if I had to order them, I'm guessing Cam would be one, but I get it. They're in new situations. They're more familiar already and all that. But not only has Cam hit way higher heights than any of those guys, but even just the recent times I've seen him play, including game 2 of the preseason, I don't know, he looked pretty good to me.
Well,
Damon, can I try?
Woody just said something that's go ahead, Woody.
Let me say this real quick. Anyone that saw Cam Newton the second half of last year, you were, I would say, appalled by some of the throws that Cam Newton was making last year.
He did have COVID.
The balls were skipping off the turf and all those things. So when you talk about, when you're comparing him to Jameis Winston, number one, age is a factor. Jameis Winston is a lot younger than Cam Newton. And let's remember, everyone talks about the 30 for 30 with Jameis. But let's also not forget, Jameis threw for over 5,000 yards.
Yep.
Jameis Winston is a talented passer. He just had a turnover issue. That's why he won the job in New Orleans, because Sean Payton feels like I can coach the turnovers out of him. It was never a talent thing. Do we know that Cam Newton, as a pure passer, because his athletic ability has decreased over the years because of the hits, is he better than some of these guys?
No one else, guys.
As a pure passer.
That was the point I was going to make.
Cam's athletic ability has decreased in a league that has caught up to him athletically. There's maybe no one with the size who can also do that. But the league that he was dominating back then had fewer guys like that than it does now. And so that quality is not only diminished, but its relative value is diminished compared to other quarterbacks in the league.
Damien, let me ask you this really quickly. As far as the New England Patriots now, with Mac Jones leading the charge, what are your expectations for this team in terms of wins and playoffs?
I think they're going to be a force in the AFC. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I still got the Buffalo Bills winning the division, but the New England Patriots are going to be a force to be reckoned with in the AFC. Has anybody watched that defense? That defense is going to be one of the top defenses in the league. Has anyone talked about their offensive line, their running game? Guaranteed they're going to bludgeon people. And if Mac Jones does what he's supposed to do out there, which is minimize turnovers and make the smart plays and the throws that he's supposed to make, New England's going to be right there with some of these other teams in the AFC, the teams we talk about. You better believe that.
You know, I just again want to point out to people, Cam Newton, I'm looking it up now because I remembered he was having a very good season at the time he hurt his shoulder against Pittsburgh. At that moment, they were, and they lost to Pittsburgh, but they entered that game 6-2. He was completing close to 70% of his passes, and they entered the game against Pittsburgh 6-2.
When it was in Carolina?
Yes, when he was in Carolina. When have we seen Cam set up to show what he can do since then? We have not. He was hurt. He basically never got back on the field as Cam Newton. He went to a new team during COVID, no practice, no preseason, no defense because of COVID, 9 defections, no offense. That's why Tom Brady left. He got COVID, still won 7 games. So I'm just saying, the last time we saw Cam with a real team in a regular season sample, he had played 8 games and won 6 of them and was completing about 70% of his passes.
Well, that's
then
what
COVID held it back this year as well.
Yes!
Training camp is about showing what you can do and proving yourself, right or wrong, Woody. That's what training camp is for. He had that opportunity in training camp.
No, he did, but then he had to step away because the COVID protocols.
Yeah, and Mac Jones balled out. Let's not act like.
Why are you looking at me like that?
You can't leave the door open for somebody else to come in there.
Max, here's the deal. What is the excuse for this training camp? He had the same opportunities as Mac Jones. Okay, I've always said that if it's close between a veteran and a young guy, you play the young guy. He never put on tape that he was that much better than Mac Jones. So there's no excuse. And the fact that the whole COVID situation, whether it's vax or unvaccinated, being unvaccinated, you better believe that played a factor in this whole situation. So listen,
I can't argue against that.
You can make the argument that we haven't seen Cam Newton at his best since a couple years ago, but the facts remain that he never at any point this training camp pulled away from Mac Jones, and that was his undoing.
He had to give himself every chance and the best chance, and when he missed time with the COVID protocols, he did not do that. He didn't give himself the best chance in every
Absolutely.
respect.
Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll come back and have final thoughts on Cam Newton being released by the New England Patriots and Mac Jones getting the nod. Could this be the passing of the torch from Brady, essentially, to Mac Jones having the keys? We'll see.
Goal and he falls short.
There's nothing the Chiefs can do. There will be no repeat.
It's something that will motivate you for the rest of your career.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
The biggest thing that I'm preaching to myself is you never want to be satisfied with where you're at. We have to be better than we were this last year and go out there and win the Super Bowl.
Good day. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into First Take on a Tuesday. Thank you for hanging with us. Harry Douglas in for Stephen A. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you too, Molly.
Still like the look, still holding things down. Appreciate that. Max Kellerman, hope you had a fabulous weekend.
You as well.
And Super Bowl champ Booger McFarland joining the convo as well. Where is he? A lot of jokes on Get Up this morning, Boog. There were some good ones. I was having a lot of fun watching you guys, so we'll try to continue it here, fellas. Let's kick this off. The 2021 NFL season right around the corner. September 9th, it all goes down, and that means it's time for our annual ranking of the league's top 100 players. So to create the list, we asked an ESPN panel of more than 50 NFL experts to rate players based on how good they will be in the 2021 season compared to their peers. Now, focus on this, guys. Emphasis placed solely on expectations for the upcoming season in predicting potential greatness rather than past performance, career resume, or positional value. So that means long-term injuries, like the one Michael Thomas is dealing with, played a part. So there's 6 quarterbacks that were among the top 20 players overall. Mahomes, number 1. However, reigning Super Bowl champion Tom Brady found himself 6th among the said quarterbacks. Booger, you are up first. Do you have a problem with Tom Brady and his 7 rings being ranked 6th amongst the quarterbacks?
Oh, absolutely. Because if we're going to say that there are 6'5" quarterbacks better than Tom Brady, I'll give you Patrick Mahomes, I'll give you Aaron Rodgers, but that's about all I'm going to give you. And I don't want to hear about what's going to happen in the future 2, 3, 4 years from now. I'm talking about what I just saw this past season and what I think I'm going to see this season. They are the prohibitive favorite, them along with the Kansas City Chiefs, to win another Super Bowl. And the only reason that is because of Tom Brady. This is a very similar roster that Jameis Winston, quarterback to 8-8 or 9-7, I believe. Tom Brady transformed that team the way he went out and played, and he's still playing at an elite level because he's playing the position the right way. No, he's not the dual threat quarterback and going to get all the free yards that Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson and Dak Prescott are going to get. But what he's going to do, he's going to distribute the football and get the ball to the weapons. And more importantly, what he's not going to do, which is what Tampa needed, he's not going to turn the football over. He's the ultimate winner because he knows how to win. And oftentimes playing that position of quarterback, you have to understand the plays that you can make, but more importantly, the plays that you cannot make. So any list that has Tom Brady ranked at number 6 as far as the quarterback going into the season, to me, it's a list that whoever came up with this list needs to go back and figure it out. Because at the very, very worst, he's 3rd behind Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers.
Well, I agree with your ranking of Brady. That's where I put him. I put him 3rd. Mahomes 1, Rodgers 2, Brady 3. And I think not only is he 3rd, Boog, I think then that's the first tier. I don't know that anyone else belongs in that tier. Apologies to Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, who may not be on the field, and a couple others, including Josh Allen, who's ascending, and Herbert, who may be super great this year. We'll see. But I'd have him 3rd. And I am out of the predicting Brady's demise business because he is great still. He is great still at an age. Well, listen, every quarterback who ever lived fell off the cliff by 42. The man is 44. So he's so many standard deviations beyond anyone who ever lived. He's in uncharted territory. But, Boog, I can't fault people for making a prediction and saying, you know what, eventually Father Time's going to win, or at least start to score some points, at least land the jab a little bit, Boog, a few body shots, and that ascending quarterbacks who are dual threat and we have seen can play on a great or near great level, given their age and trajectory of their career, offensive lines, what have you, that people can squeeze a few in ahead of Brady. That wouldn't be me, but I could understand why predicting they do it. When we talked about this yesterday, I was with you. Your position now, he's 3. You're not going to tell me Brady's 7th among quarterbacks. But if you're predicting, I mean, eventually, 44 years old, there's a chance by the end of the season, a 17-game season, maybe there's a little drop-off and other guys are getting better. I don't have a problem with it.
Well, I'll say this. For me, fellas, when you look at the overall picture here, and you look at Tom Brady, you look at his success for so many years in the National Football League, and you look at what he has coming back on this roster right now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They have 22 starters, 11 on offense coming back. If you're going to predict anything, I predict Tom Brady to have a good year because what he's surrounded by. And I'll tell y'all this, out of all those quarterbacks, forget that. Out of all the players in the NFL, Tom Brady has the greatest trait of all of them. That's winning. That's what matters, winning in the National Football League. So whoever had him at 6 it's just outright crazy. For me, I have Mahomes number 1. I have Rodgers number 2. I I have Brady's 3.
Everyone does.
Brady 3. I have Russell Wilson 4. I have Deshaun Watson 5, and I have Josh Allen 6.
Right.
That's my list right there in the order of that fashion. But to have Brady as the 6th best quarterback and to think he's the 6th best quarterback and he just won his 7th Super Bowl and he has everybody coming back offensively, it's just outright crazy and bogus to me.
One thing, Booger, that I disagree with is you said it's basically the same team that Jameis had. There were some significant improvements. They spent a first-round pick on an offensive lineman. They obviously brought in Antonio Brown. And by the way, people sleep on Antonio Brown. It's not like the last time we saw Antonio Brown play a full season in the NFL, he was among the greatest receivers who ever lived. I don't know that he's still not. Let me see him play a full season. And then you add Gronk, and then you add Leonard Fournette, and they added some pieces.
Yeah, but Max, I truly understand they added some pieces. But if you look at the majority of the season, that defense was there. You look at the offensive line, I'll give you the fact that they added Tristan Wirfs, who looks like he's going to be an all-pro for years to come. But the primary playmakers, when you look at Mike Evans, when you look at Chris Godwin, when you look at those guys were already there.
Yeah, listen, Jameis had so much there that throwing 30 interceptions, they still won 7 games. I mean, that tells you something. You could have brought in a quarterback that just gave you 15 interceptions and won 9 games or something like that. But you brought in Tom Brady, and to me, the reason that I can't drop him below 3rd, even predicting if it's just me, his first year away from Belichick. Yes, his team was loaded. They were not the only loaded team in the NFL. His first year away from Belichick. He not only won the Super Bowl, but did it on the other side of the field. There was Aaron Rodgers and there was Patrick Mahomes. Yep, their offensive lines were hurt. It wasn't exactly a fair fight. Nothing ever is exactly. Brady just won the Super Bowl. Tough to drop them when they return all the starters. And if anything, look like they're going to be better this year.
And I'll be honest, guys, when we look at this list, he's not better than Patrick Mahomes, right? He's not better than Aaron Rodgers because both of those guys can improvise and do things that we've never seen quarterbacks do in the National Football League. Now, when you look at the 3rd slot, I think he solidified that 3rd slot just because of the simple fact I would take him over Russell Wilson. I would take him over Josh Allen. I would take him over anybody else besides Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. Those 2 guys right there, the way they play the game of football, the way they improvise, the way they just do things for their football teams. You look at how they throw we look at Patrick Mahomes the other day in the preseason game and the way he's just throwing the ball sidearm. He's just out there having fun. It's like he's a grown man playing amongst kids.
Yeah, the one thing that you asked yesterday, and Ryan Clark was tweeting about this maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, what does Brady do better than anyone else who ever lived?
Well, I'll say winning for me.
I get it, but how does that happen? He's always had a good arm. He makes better decisions faster than anyone else. And if you had to ask provided you have a good arm,
there you go,
a strong, accurate arm, what's the number one trait? Leadership and decision-making. How good are your decisions? How fast do you make them? How do you lead? He's number 1 in those 3 most important categories. But Rodgers and Mahomes are way up there in those categories, and then they also have physical gifts that either you got them or you don't. Brady doesn't have those. So I agree with you.
And
Mahomes,
even if you had a guy, Deion Branch, sat there and told me that Tom elevates everyone's play around him.
Of course, that's why everybody wants to play with him.
Level.
Boog, let me ask you this real quick. What do you think about Kyler Murray ahead of Lamar Jackson?
Well, to me, the only reason he's there, Molly, is because Kyler Murray is far advanced as a passer. It's amazing how high Lamar Jackson is. I get it. He's won the MVP, took the league by storm, and he is a far, far better player than I thought he would ever be this early in his career. But the one thing I think that's holding him back is what we all keep saying, the maturation of him throwing the football from the pocket. As great as he is, from an athlete standpoint, he's got to take that next step, Molly. He's got to continue to throw the football to someone outside besides Mark Andrews for this team to win and win at the highest level in late January and moving into the Super Bowl, because he hasn't done that yet.
Boog, hold that thought. I got breaking news here. Adam Schefter just tweeted, and I want to react to this right away, guys. This is huge.